Macca's Guides.
Hey everyone, Macca here with another Xbox dashboard video. Today we are test driving the new home screen. There are a couple of important things you should know before we get started though. First off, Xbox has mentioned that this is a test or an experiment. This is just the early phase, so this is not how it's going to look when it's finally done in the future. They said that they wanted to focus on making the dashboard faster and easier to play the games you want to play and to help you find your next favorite game. As an Xbox insider in the alpha skip ahead ring, I'm able to give this a download and offer some of my personal feedback. Now, right off the bat, taking a look at the home screen here, you'll notice a lot of really obvious changes and some subtle ones as well. There's a lot more stuff on screen, which some people may like and some people may dislike. I think it's good for quickness and efficiency, although it does look a little bit crowded, no doubt. The first thing you'll notice is this jump back in bar. This is going to show your 5 most recently played games or kind of services. And in the far end, I have the disc that's inside of my Xbox console. In the top right now, you'll notice that there is a settings button, which I think is actually pretty good because I think a lot of new users have trouble finding the settings on their Xbox. I don't think that's a bad place to put it. There's also a search bar here, so you can search straight from here and then look up whatever game you're looking to install as soon as you get started. You can also press Y to search, so there's kind of a little bit of redundancy there. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it does exist. Under the Jump Back In tab, we also have My Games and Apps and Store as permanent fixtures. And then we have these 3 bars here, which currently show off some Xbox news, games coming to Game Pass, and the option to pre-order Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Now, if I were to go to home and refresh it, you'll notice that these 3 kind of larger tabs in the second row do change. They are, in a sense, advertisements. They are basically trying to get you to interact with a game sale, with a new game on Game Pass, or to pre-order a game. So these have always kind of been here, and these have become more and more prominent over the years. No doubt Microsoft and Xbox are a business. They need to generate money. However, these maybe feel a little bit more invasive than I think most people are comfortable with on the front and center of their home screen on the dashboard. But where things actually change a lot is when you scroll under the fold here, and every time I regenerate the home screen, it kind of refreshes the things I see underneath. So we'll refresh a couple times so I can kind of show you a bunch of things, and then I'll offer some feedback as well. But if you go down here, we have recently added. There would probably be a little bit more context needed here for most people. This is recently added to Game Pass specifically. And it would be nice if you could press the right bumper to jump over to the right hand side, which you can't do at the moment. But these are the 6 most recently added games to Game Pass. You could go to the far end and then click show more, and you could just maybe find like your new favorite game through here. Or if you're just signing on, you have Game Pass, you can quickly get into a game. Then we have most popular. So this is kind of, in my opinion, an outdated category. I don't really know what goes into deciding what a most popular game is. It is some very weird formula based on the games that usually show up here. I think for the purposes of these tests, by the way, most of these games don't actually necessarily belong where they show up, especially later on. You'll notice that some things don't really make sense, but it's just for testing, so I'm okay with that. But here you can also press X now, or you used to be able to as well, to add to play later. So I'm pressing X on all 6 of these games. And now if I were to go to the new My Games and Apps experience, I made a separate video about this, but if I were to go to full library and then I were to tab over eventually when it loads, this is kind of the problem with the dashboard. It's still really slow in my opinion. I'm actually going to cut the video. But if I were to eventually go to Xbox Game Pass, I can now get the play later box, and these are all the games that I added just now from when we were browsing the new home screen. Later on here, you'll see things. These are all for testing again. I don't think these are necessarily tailored to my experience, but you'll see most popular here and then most played here. These are for better or worse, the same categories, but shown in a different style. Most popular is a lot thinner of a bar, and the show me more is at the end, whereas this one you'll have kind of 4 games instead of 6, but you will default land on the show more. Personally, I prefer this style because I'm more likely to click show more than I think the average person. You can then get thin bars like EA Game Trials or Games with Gold. You'll see how, you know, there's kind of the same type of content in different shapes and sizes. You can see Play with Cloud Gaming, Day 1 releases, Xbox crossplay game, EA Game Pass games, most popular again. So this is again, we already had a most popular, but this is another way that it might display in the future. And I think they're trying to experiment to see which people prefer. And if I go and I refresh the home screen, I can show you a couple more examples of things you may see. So now for some reason it's showing me an achievement in The Return of Obra Dinn, a game that I recently installed. And then we can see like most popular again, recently added, but this time it is shorter, but still has that kind of long thing where show me more is at the far end. Again, it'd be nice to be able to use my bumpers to get from side to side on these screens. Action adventure, here we have like a Bethesda showcase, Day 1 releases, but again in a different structure than the one we saw last time. EA Game Pass, again in a different format than we saw last time. And there's also sometimes sales on this screen, and there's also sometimes more genres as well. Now it's going to show me a friend on my Gamerscore leaderboard. And, you know, coming soon to Game Pass. But this is very much centered around Game Pass now. You really can't deny that. We even have something here like Anime Month, which if I were an anime fan, this would probably be pretty useful to me. Although personally, I am not necessarily an anime fan. Before I get into my feedback, I offer an invitation for you to let me know your feedback in the comments down below. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and I would love to actually read what some of you think about this. Now, one thing I did notice, and I don't know, again, if this is a part of the testing or if this is an actual change they plan to put into this, but they added the ability for you to make groups. And one group I like having is the backlog games that I've not yet started. And I used to be able to pin these groups onto my dashboard, and I don't know if they got rid of it or if it's just not implemented yet, but it doesn't seem like you can pin things like you used to be able to. You used to be able to pin friends or leaderboards or clubs. You used to be able to pin groups of games. All this functionality seems to be stripped away in favor of highlighting these Game Pass games and these store options. And although I do like the idea of Xbox potentially figuring out what I want to play and serving me, you know, quote unquote ads for things that I actually don't know exist, I support that. But I also really need the functionality of being able to pin groups and clubs that I want to participate in. I think that's a no-brainer. Another concern I have is this new home dashboard's reliance on what seems to be custom curated recommendations. So I'll give you an example in Day 1 releases here where we can click Show Me More. Now I know this is a test, but I've had this same problem with the previous iterations of the dashboard for many years. When you go into these custom curated lists, it seems like they are made by actual human beings who work at Xbox. But it also seems like most of them are outdated because most of them don't include newer games. And when you actually look at the list, it really does seem like a roll of the dice. Now here, I'm not saying this is actually implementing an algorithm, but I've seen similar things happen where it recommends a game like Wasteland or The Bard's Tale to me. And really, when I look at these two games, they couldn't be further from the types of games I normally play. And when you continue to go through these, there are a lot of older games and games I've already played very high up in the list. Again, I know this screen in specific is a test, but this is a trend I've seen before. I think it's bad to rely on a custom curated recommendation list of games when it's curated by a human being who doesn't update the list and when the actual algorithm behind the list doesn't make any sense. I get recommended games all the time that have nothing to do with any of the types of games I like to play. It just seems very, very randomized to me. I'd love to know more about how these types of recommendations work, and I'd love for Xbox to update these lists more often when they do create them to curate them. And then last but not least, it's very obvious that this is sort of a live dashboard. Every time you log on, it'll probably show you something different or new things. And I think that's kind of cool in the sense that if I refresh it, every time it'll be a little bit different, but it also makes it harder to rely on your dashboard for the things you need. If I'm unable to pin things and every time I load up it's different, it's very easy to get confused about where I want to go or where I have to go in order to find something I'm specifically looking for. Obviously, you can still open up your sidebar, but it just kind of seems like maybe a weird decision to have something that is ever changing underneath your fold. If it is made for quickness and efficiency, it seems like it kind of defeats the purpose. Anyways, that's just kind of my quick opinion based on using this thing for about an hour. As I use it for longer and longer, I'm sure my mind will adjust. Some things will grow on me and some things may become evident that they are more problematic than I originally anticipated. But those are my first impressions of the new dashboard home. I'm happy to be on board testing this, providing feedback, and I hope that this keeps growing and growing into a better and a better experience until it eventually launches for everyone else at some point in 2023. Thank you so much for watching. Special thanks to Puffy Vins on Patreon for supporting the show, and hopefully I see you next time. Peace.